Today on Eye on Northwest Politics, a city budget under scrutiny and facing a $93 million deficit. From cutting city jobs to hikes in city fees, Portland's mayor unveils his plan. But will the new city council go along? My conversation with council president Elana Pirtle-Guiney. And Portland-based Mercy Corps' humanitarian missions around the world jeopardized by Trump administration cuts to foreign aid. Vice President of Policy and Advocacy Kate Phillips-Barrasso joins us to talk about the organization's future. Plus, Oregon considers a new law to keep more firearms out of dangerous hands. Jess Marks, Executive Director of the Alliance for a Safe Oregon, makes her case in this week's Give Me a Minute. Eye on Northwest Politics starts now. Thanks for joining us. This is Eye on Northwest Politics. I'm Ken Body. Let's get right to your top political headlines. The Washington State Supreme Court upheld a ban on high-capacity magazine guns. The ruling on Thursday overturned a lower court order that labeled the ban unconstitutional. The law prevents the sale, manufacture, and import of ammunition magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. The Portland City Council has unanimously voted to overturn approval for Portland General Electric's Forest Park project. The project would have removed hundreds of trees from Forest Park. PGE wanted to build infrastructure that they say would have reduced power outages and fire risks. Environmentalists said it would have threatened one of the nation's largest urban forests. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek urging Oregonians to prepare for wildfire season. Experts predict a hotter and drier summer than in past years, increasing the wildfire risk. Last year's wildfire season was one of the most destructive in state history, with more than 1,900 fires burning nearly 2 million acres. Portland Mayor Keith Wilson released his proposed $8.5 billion budget this week, with layoffs, fee increases, and program cuts to help close a $93 million budget gap, while also adding money for public safety and Portland livability.
We have to make some tough decisions, but we can't do everything we'd like to do. But my budget makes sure every community center, every sun school, every swimming pool, and every park stays open.
Now it's up to Portland's new 12-person city council to approve that budget, and that includes Portland City Council President Elana Pirtle-Guiney. Councilor Pirtle-Guiney has been a union organizer, a policy expert for the state, and a member of former Governor Kate Brown's executive team. She represents District 2, North and Northeast Portland. Welcome to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you for having me.
Well, several of your fellow city commissioners have already, councilors, made that mistake. Councilors have already proposed amendments to the mayor's budget. So what's on the table for changes, and how will that be incorporated into the process?
So we have received the mayor's proposed budget. We now go through a process of determining what councilors need to see in there to be able to vote for it. Over the next 2 weeks, you'll see us dive deep with some of our deputy city administrators, talking about the specifics of what program cuts in the mayor's budget mean, what the additions that he added would lead to, and what council would like to see maintained from that proposed budget, what we would like to change as we move into our budget approval process.
What kind of changes have been proposed so far?
A lot of councilors are focusing in on the parks maintenance cuts. And there's a lot of frustration that those cuts went so deep. A lot of people are looking for other ways to find money so that we don't have to delay things like bathroom cleaning and playground cleaning in our parks. Those are things that Portlanders rely on having our assets in working condition when they get there. We also have a number of councilors who are looking at the public safety budget. The mayor did a very admirable job trying to balance all of the needs in public safety for our community, but I think there are some places where folks want to tweak a little bit. And of course, there's a whole lot of money pouring into the mayor's plan to end unsheltered homelessness with increases in shelter programs, but also a number of positions that would support those programs, which I think folks want to take a closer look at. The final piece I'd mention is just economic development, where a number of my colleagues are wondering how we can plus up our support for good jobs and small businesses in our community.
The mayor is looking at almost 180 layoffs, mostly from permitting and development, the Portland Water Bureau, Portland Parks, which you mentioned. What do you think of the proposed personnel reductions?
Well, first of all, I think it's always important to start conversations about this by saying we know this is really hard for our employees. And Most of the work that the city does is provide services to Portlanders. So whenever we talk about cuts, this isn't an esoteric idea. These are people, these are jobs, these are people who provide services to Portlanders. And we are having to ask what services we absolutely have to maintain and what services we might be able to go without for a year or two. And unfortunately, that means layoffs for the people who provide those services. We want to make sure to keep as many services and as many people employed as possible. We're also looking at very deep reductions this budget cycle, and layoffs are a necessity when that happens.
This comes at a time when the city is at an impasse in negotiations with the City of Portland Professional Workers Union. They represent about 800 city workers. They're threatening to go on strike possibly in June. So how does this factor into your budget considerations?
Well, anytime we're in contract negotiations, there's a cost to that. Right? Anytime you here at COIN give wage increases to people, there's a cost to that for the organization. My goal as we go through these negotiations is to use the same filter that I would for any other contract negotiations, even if we weren't in the middle of our budget discussions, though I know it's more complicated now. We want to be a great place to work. We want to be a great place to work because then we can recruit and maintain the best possible employees at the city and provide the best possible services to Portlanders. And we need to figure out how to balance doing that with our budget pressures. That's the case every time we're at the table in contract negotiations.
Are you involved in those negotiations at all?
Ultimately, the mayor directs the team that is at the table, but they do meet with council regularly because we need to approve the final contract that is negotiated.
From what we know, the budget includes a $2 million increase for the police bureau and $12 million in one-time funds to hire more officers. Here's what Mayor Wilson said about public safety in this budget.
We need to reduce response times. We need to reduce overtime, and we can do both by this modest increase. With Portland Street Response, we're also plussing up Portland Street Response by over $1 million. We're adding 14 new Portland Street Response responders. We're going to increase their hours and their capabilities in dispatch in Portland.
Do you agree with those priorities in the budget?
So reducing response time is not just a police issue. It is a public safety system issue. And I appreciate that the mayor is looking at both police and Portland Street Response as he thinks about response time. We also have within our police system, alongside our sworn police officers that Portlanders are used to seeing on the street, a second position that is a non-sworn officer. They're called PS3s, public safety officers, who can help with response to certain types of crimes as well. And we need to, in Portland, look at making sure that we have the right people responding to each type of call that comes into our 911 system so that we can, as effectively as possible, make sure that we're responding to calls and that Portlanders feel safe in our community. We won't get there unless we look at the public safety system as a whole. I think the mayor took the first step in that direction with his proposed budget. I know a number of councilors are already considering in future years what the next steps will be.
The mayor asking for a hike in fees for everything from parking meters to recreational activities and a lot more in terms of fee increases. Do you see any wiggle room or negotiation room there?
We know that Portlanders are already struggling with the cost of living here. And when we think about fee increases, there's two types of fee increases. There are those fee increases for things that everybody uses every day, your water fees, your parking fees, things like that. There are fee increases. I guess we'll separate those, your water and sewer fees. There are fee increases for things that you might have more of a choice in using, parking fees, parks rec center fees, things like that. My goal is to make sure that as we do increase fees, because there are some places where fees will have to go up, that we are keeping in mind what the costs are for working families and that we are trying to keep the cost pressure on working families from increasing too quickly.
Yeah, you've got a lot of tough decisions to make. You were telling me before we started the interview that about half of the city council members have not gone through a budget process. You have, because you've worked for the state. What's the timetable, briefly, for when you have to decide on the budget and when it takes effect?
So we are scheduled to make our first decision, and it's actually kind of interesting. There's a two-part decision process for us. So we'll make our first set of decisions on May 21st, which is just 2.5 weeks from now. And that's when we will say, here's the framework of what we think the budget should look like. Most of our decisions are made, the big decisions are made, but we might still make some tweaks after that. There's then a review board at the county that will consider that and make sure that we didn't do anything terrible in our decision making. Once we get the response from them, which of course will be yes, because we will put together a decent budget, we'll have a few more weeks into the middle of June where we can make some tweaks around the edges if we realize that there are some programs that need a little bit more or
And
a
it
little
goes
less.
into effect in July, correct?
July 1st, yes.
Thank you, Portland City Council President Elana Pirtle-Guiney.
Thank you for having me.
All right, appreciate it. Next, they're one of the nation's premier humanitarian organizations. They are based here in Portland. Mercy Corps has a presence around the world, providing everything from food to clean water to other humanitarian assistance. But President Trump's freezes in foreign aid have the organization reeling. My conversation with Mercy Corps Vice President for Global Policy and Advocacy, Kate Phillips-Barrasso, right after the break.